Hello, everyone. And now we are entering the 17th week or video of episode 17 or week 17. Hello, I'm Eriawan, and I'm going to more focusing on, going to more focus on the features of .NET 8. We have discussed the ASP.NET Core, but not the detail, of course. We have discussed the Blazor. And on last week video, I was honestly, and this is my mistake, but it's also my confusion when reading the official documentation of Blazor, because there are some changes from 7 to 8, and it gives me confusions at that time. So, but honestly, yeah, why I'm telling it gives me because I'm still confused, but not so much. Right now I'm confused about. It is clear that yeah, you can have the new template Blazor, but that new template of Blazor is yeah, you can consider it a new template. I'll discuss you in detail. But now I'm also going to start from having a discussion of WinForms, but hopefully in the meantime, I can give you some demo about trimming or trimmer. But for now, let's start the presentation. And this is me, Aryawan. I'm based in Indonesia. This is my LinkedIn. Next to me is my wife. My GitHub ID is Aryawan. I'm also a member of DOTNET Foundation Open Source Project Onboarding Committee. So feel free to reach me. I'm going to make it quick. So we are now in this number 3, overview of technologies, under the architecture umbrella. And again, you have to follow me from the previous videos because this will also quite a heavy discussion on the TFM. If you are going to create the .NET 8 on WinForms, which is only available on Windows only, and also this will also going to provide I mean, not just WinForms. There are two now. If you follow the .NET framework, not just WinForms, you will also have a WPF. It is basically modern desktop UI, and you can have 3D because basically WPF means that you have a subset of DirectX built in on top of .NET CLI or runtime. But for now, let's just focusing on the wind farms, and also I'll tell you, or I'll try to explain to you my confusions. And I have realized that there are some documentation that you can see. Where we're also going to see that it described that yeah, this template is only for available or for .NET 8 and later, including .NET 9, of course. But the original Blazor server is also will be I don't know what the correct term for that because there is no obsolescence or not developed anymore or something like that. So yeah, so this is why the title now is the legacy desktop and also update to the episode 16. If you remember that I in episode 16 I have to use two videos because it is very long and a little bit it is my you can consider it is all it's also my trial to my effort to explain to you. This is why it takes more than one video, because actually when I was trying to have a research, it'll take me about 2.5 half hours, but I think I should try to compact it further. So let's discuss the update first. This is still the reminder for us, and hopefully we are going to reach here, especially the trimmer. And this is the hosting models. So you can safely assume that this is for the hosting model for .NET before 8.0. I put some context here, before 8.0. Although you can still see the server side documentation on the .NET 8.0 documentation here, which is you see there's a version ASP.NET Core 8.0. So, and then client side is always Blazor WASM. This is Blazor server. I should mention this should be obsoleted, but I'll try to keep it as is for now. And I'm going to update the slide after this. Just to, again, to recap, the server side will not be available in .NET 8.0 or later, including .NET 9. Yeah, Microsoft should also clear about this. I'll see you in the documentation, because it is not clear. The documentation is not quite explicit enough to explain about this. Now we have Blazor full stack in 8.0. This is the Blazor web app, and the template project name is just Blazor. So you'll see that I was thinking, okay, this Blazor is just the normal Blazor that comes from the 8.0. No, it is the new one, and it's just using Blazor. The decision as a template is Blazor web app, and the the fact is it is not backward compatible with the previous version of .NET before .NET 8.0. And there is a documentation. You'll see that the documentation is available in the Blazor fundamentals. So yeah, it is quite surprising to me before, and I have to admit that again, the name of the project name is quite confusing. It's just Blazor, but the description of this template is Blazor web app. The documentation says it is a Blazor full stack, meaning that you can have server side and client side, and both of them on the same code base, which is something that is a little bit hard for me to, present this. But I'll try to present this on the next video. But this should be in more like a specialized video. So maybe on the next week after WPF. So within the next 2 weeks, I'm afraid. Okay, so now before we are going to discuss Winforms, let's go back to the comment from here. I'm still updating the, okay, now it's done. So this is the .NET Upgrade Assistant for Visual Studio. It is a Visual Studio extension, not the global tool that we have done before. I'm going to close this. So let's revisit the Blazor. We see here Blazor Server and Blazor Web App, which is just Blazor, and Blazor Web Assembly or Blazor WASM. So the next confusing thing is this guy, Blazor Web App. We can do it on the server side, but it is put under the text of web Blazor Web Assembly. Is it? Does it mean you have the support for both either server or client side? To me, yes, it is just you are assigning this template with multiple tags. Tag that says, okay, we have web, Blazor and WebAssembly. If we just mention about Blazor WebAssembly, then what would be the difference with the Blazor WASM, right? So again, you'll see the difference if we look at the documentation. Okay, let's revisit the documentation. Now we see here. Let's look at the what's new in 8 or ASP.NET Core 8. With the release of .NET 8, Blazor is a full stack web UI, blah blah blah, that renders content at either component or page level. You can have static server, interactive server, or also called interactive server-side rendering, and then interactive WASM, or also called client-side rendering, CSR, which is always assumed to be interactive, to generate interactive component on the client with pre-rendering on the server. So again, this is quite new to me because I'm just assuming that I already knew full server side only or client side, which is using WASM. But now you can have a some kind of unification, both server side and client side, including the interactive server rendering or WebAssembly on one project. This also include new support for ASP.NET Core Blazor render modes. What is the documentation for this one? I think I already opened it. Here you are, Blazor modes. Oh, sorry, render modes. So you have static servers, interactive server, interactive WASM, and auto. Static means, of course, there should be no interaction it is not interactive, which is correct. But then interactive server, the interaction is available on the server-side rendering. This is using Blazor server. And then client-side using Blazor WASM and interactive auto using the best of those two. So let's revisit the template that I already created on previous video. I'm still here in the process and plus. And okay, I think I'm going to add all of these and push to my repo. Yeah, I haven't pushed it. Just quit. So net 8.0. No, not in. And I'm going to push this. Yep, it is updated now. So we have the history, Blazor server, and WASM and Blazor web. Or yeah, it's just Blazor. Okay, now let's try to run this, or at least let's see the difference and what kind of interactivity or rendering or something that it tries to convey here. Just open the repo. Okay, and let's go to Blazor sample solution here. We are going to look at the actual CS parts first. So these are okay. This is the hang on. Yeah, the Blazor server. It doesn't have anything in particular. This is for WASM. You see that it includes packet reference to this one and the new Blazor only. So there's no noticeable difference. let's see on how it tries to use the render mode or something like that. So if we go to the counter here, it is using server side. Interactive render mode is render mode dot interactive server. So if I go to this one after, oh, there you are. We have interactive server render mode, interactive WASM WebAssembly render mode, and this is the auto. So to me, it seems like it should be something like enum, but it is not enum. Yeah, it is not using enum for this one. I think it is using type like this one because you can also create your own render mode as you wish. But honestly, this is also quite new to me. So maybe I'll try to understand more and deeper first. So yeah, this is only available in .NET 8. Just to prove to you, I'm going to have it quick. So let's see the .NET new, sorry, .NET new Blazor. If you look here and see the parameter of dash F, it's only support to only target .NET 8.0. You see, yes, I have .NET 9, but I'm using global JSON. So just to quick recap here, let's have a look at the content of the global JSON on this folder. So I'm using SDK to be bound to the 8.0.300, but it is enabled to have roll forward policy to be using latest features. So it is not using the major or minor. It is using the latest features. So it only concerns the uh, first number after the major minor here. So only concerns the progress for the 300 or later. So it will not support the 9.0 for now. You see, it is target net 8.0. So if we see the help for Blazor server, it's a quick help actually. And you see that it will not support net 8.0, although you can do that. Yeah, we have seen before in the previous video. You can only, by default, only target net 7, net 6, net 5, net core app 3.1. But I suggest you should not target net core app 3.1 or net 5 for now because it is too old, and unless you are going to, of course, migrate or update your application to the newer version of .NET. So we have here Blazor server. And if you look at the Blazor WASM, .NET new Blazor WASM -h, let's look at the supported framework. Blazor WASM, of course, it is still available in .NET 8, but still have a support for previous versions such as 7, 6, 5. But I can assure you that the WASM, as we have discussed before, the Blazor WASM is now using the extension of WASM, and all of the binaries are using the W3C format of WebAssemblies. So if you have an old version before 8.0, you should use WASM, or you just, I think, upgrade your project as well. So hopefully this will clear up some confusion And about the confusing documentation, honestly, I don't know how to fix that quickly because I have to submit an issue or something, or maybe the nice thing is just to initiate discussion first because that will also expect some clarification or feedback from Microsoft itself that documentation is the way it is, or hopefully they would accept that it should have a explicit mention that either this template of Blazor server will be removed or not, or should be marked as a obsolete. Because if you, so let's say if you .NET new list here, you cannot see what or which project template is going to be obsoleted. Maybe it should have some kind of additional column that says, okay, this project is marked as obsoleted or not. You should we should have that kind of feature. I mean, if we could directly see which kind of project template is going to be obsoleted, that would be great, right? But looking at the number of characters that displays on the text, and maybe it is hard to add obsolescence indicator or flag, something like that. Okay. Anyway, it is still confusing that we have new template. It is called Blazor Web App. Let's see. This is Blazor Web App, and compared to the Blazor server here, uh, server is using Razor. Yep, it is using Razor like this one, and there is no rendering mode, of course. And here we have rendering mode. It's using server. On page we don't have it. And what about the weather? The weather doesn't have a rendering mode. Okay, Razor. Mhm. So is there any documentation? It says help is not available for this current context. Okay, I'm going to search within the SPNet core. Is if this takes me more than 3 minutes, I'll just move on to WinForms. Okay, let's see. So this should be render mode. Uh, Render mode. Hmm. Yep. And should be only for documentation. How to create and set custom render for the tooltip. This is not what I'm searching. Render mode. Okay, we have here SPNet Core Razor components in Net 8.0. When using a Blazor web app, most of the Blazor documentation example components require interactivity to function and demonstrate concepts. When you test an example component provided by article, make sure that either the app adopts global interactivity. Okay, okay. It is suggesting that we should consult the render modes first. Component class is component base. Yes, it's componentized component. Component differential syntax. Yep, yep. Render mode is for. So where is the detailed documentation of render mode then? Render mode. Okay. Render modes. Render modes. Come on. Okay, render modes. Is it here? Hosting model, hosting model. Okay, render mode. Enable support for interactive server. Mhm. It says here render mode section with italic. To apply a render mode to component, use the render mode. Later in this example. Also, if there is no component already defined, so we should not use render mode, because here in this weather sample, we don't have component. No, a forecast. Yeah, we don't have it. Or do we have it? Let's see. Yeah, we don't have it because there is no interactivity. Maybe. Okay, let's try to run this. Yeah, and then let's start to. After this, let's move to the next topic of Winforms. Oh, here. Okay. Yeah, this is a sample Blazor pop-up. What about the weather? Okay, it has a asynchronous counter is okay. We have the server rendering mode that has interactivity, and this I don't know. This is it doesn't have any information of render mode at all. Okay, what about the about? It goes to okay. I'm going to use Firefox later. Um, yeah, we have a. Hang on. Where is the source code for the class? Should be here, right? Press F12. Oh, it is defined as a private class. This is a bad sample actually, but yeah, let's just try to understand the sample for now, as is. What I was also looking for is the possibility of interacting with the client side. I mean, client side not the WASM, but also client side if you have a JavaScript inside the component, especially the one that we have here, the counter, because it's only interact back and forth on the server side, not actually interacting on the with the JavaScript. Okay, now we have discussed this. Let's move on to the WinForms. But I'm not going to close this. So let's move on to WinForms. Yeah, we have here WinForms. WinForms. Where is the show slideshow? Yeah, for slide is control or C5. We are having lots of modern improvement in WinForms since .NET 5. Yeah, it is coming in .NET Core 3.0, but much more improvement is coming in .NET 5. As you can, if you remember that I've already discussed in the previous videos that WinForms is now just using you know, Microsoft.NET SDK. But then you have to mark your project to use WPF, use Winforms, then you're good to go. So based on that, another improvement is coming. For example, the app configuration since .NET 6 is using some kind of almost the same mechanism as the app, my Visual Basic, my in Visual Basic, and it is also using source generator behind the scene. And then we have a data binding improvement that is actually coming since .NET 7, but it was in preview in .NET 7. Now it is fully released, or we have, yeah, you can say it is GA or generally available in .NET 8. We also have here a Visual Studio Debug improvement in forms of the MS Build project property, Force Designer DPI Unaware. And for the complete list of the what's new in .NET 8, you will see in the visual documentation that I mentioned. Click here. Let's go to the documentation. Okay, let's go for what's new. What's new? What's new in .NET 8? Yeah, not much, but it doesn't. This doesn't mean that it is not developed anymore. It is being developed. It is being improved, right? So you have a data binding improvement, that the one that I mentioned before. This data binding is so special because, okay, let me see. It is closer to MVVM, model view model, that is commonly or generally used in WPF apps as one of the design pattern that you can choose. You can also have a um, model view presenter, or but you cannot have the model view controller because the C in the WPF, it is not making sense, in the sense that all of those wiring up, all of those model view and the view model, it is making sense in WPF instead of the MVC one, because the C doesn't have a way to bridging the view and the model, but there should be some kind of MVVMC or whatever. But I don't know. We haven't seen it before. It is not available at all. So usually you just use MVVM. But the full data binding, it is not available in WinForms. Only the closer architecture that is closer to MVVM, like you define the data binding, you define the data binding not just for the visual control or UI control, but also to any kinds of available class that implements the I binding component, or if you just derive from binding component directly. So if you see, you will see the full or complete description. Unfortunately, not in the help, but you'll see in the blog announcement of what's new in .NET 7. You may find it, why do I have to care on .NET 7? Because all of the improvement in .NET 8, especially the data binding, it's actually coming from .NET 7, although it's in preview, which is something that I could not demo in my Visual Studio because I'm using the latest and greatest version of Visual Studio, and it's hard for me to go back and forth between those preview. The one that is in preview, what I'm trying to say is this. You'll see that there should be some kind of preview, and if I'm ha- having trouble to find, I just use this search here and just use preview. Okay, we have here preview features. You have the option of use the preview Windows Form Outlook Process Designer for the apps, and this requires restart. If you wonder, are we going to have a full non-preview for out of process designer, I'm afraid you will not have that in the .NET 9 timeframe. You'll see that on the GitHub repo. Um, Unfortunately, I forgot the location, but I'll tell you in the next video. And then we have here other option of use preview of .NET SDK. That means that you are going to use this Visual Studio against the preview version of the next upcoming .NET after .NET 8, such as the .NET 9. If you want to use this nicely, let's say if you going to use this for .NET 9, you just ensure that you use this only for .NET 9, although it's not yet released. If you want to use this for .NET 10, it is not possible because this Visual Studio doesn't have any way to understand or to recognize or to support for .NET 10. Is .NET 10 available? Yes, you can try to download from the repo directly, but then you have to use the Visual Studio preview instead of the release that I have. So if you follow the previous illustration of or samples of me opening the Visual Studio installer, you'll see that I have the release version as 17.11 and I have the preview starting from 17.12, which is now in preview 4. And I think it is nearing the date of the .NET launch in next month, November. So we'll also have a new release of Visual Studio 17.12, and I'm pretty sure that it will be launched at that time. Then we'll have 17.12, and there will be a maybe 17.13 preview for the next version of .NET, and also next version of Visual Studio. Hopefully this clears some things, especially you see that there are some preview, and this is also to explain the statement that using a preview. Okay, so data binding, yeah, preview and 7 is fully enabled. If you look at the what's new in Winforms .NET 7, you'll see that it has more detailed explanation. And I think this kind of a blog entry or blog announcement should be part of the official documentation, right? Because it's hard for normal or casual developer to go back and forth between documentation and also going to the blog. It is yeah, not so nice experience. I know that I get used to this, but I'm pretty sure that other developers, you know, find it difficult. Just trying to be honest. So we have here a what is this control that derive or implement on it doesn't have it. We have here bindable component. Bindable component is the one that I'm described before. It is implementing interface of this guy, bindable component. So okay, if you search it, oh, I already opened. We have here an interface of bindable component. It is part of the namespace of system.windows.forms. Binding contains reference to bindable component owner, to bindable component property, control class. Okay, implement this interface. So if your bindable component inherits from control, you do not need to implement this interface. If your bindable component inherits from control, but then you can also have a binding component without deriving from control. So this is why enables a non-control component to emulate the data binding behavior of a Windows Forms control. So you have a closer UI behavior to your non-UI class or component, which is nice. WPF already has this before, but you don't have some kind of very nice bells and whistles, such as uh, dependency property and also um, full blown data binding within WPF. Like you can bind to any kinds of property or even a class or a collection or whatever, and you can define how to bind it. It's hard to imagine how to bind in the WinForms component because usually you just derive from control, and that is the way it is. If you follow there is a book, I believe. So let me see, data binding in WinForms. I think this is the book one, if I'm not mistaken. Um, mhm. Oh, let's try to look in Amazon. Amazon.com. And I'm facing this. Algae there. So I'm going to search for books. There should be data binding WinForms. Hmm. No, no, not this one. Yeah, I know that that book is outdated. It's very old. Windows Forms. Okay, Winforms. Yeah, this is the one. Okay, this is this is the book that I'm trying to explain to you. This book, although it is for Winforms, I think it's still relevant, right? Winforms in 3.5, 3.0 doesn't have a doesn't have any kinds of noticeable advantage. Only if you start from Winforms in 4.0, you will find some kinds of features, very nice features such as support for DPI chains, for example. But now it is not for the develop anymore. If you look or if you use .NET framework, because it is for the develop in .NET Core. But yeah, rest assured that if you buy or you have this book, you'll find that it has some very still valid references, or it is also a good guidebook for data binding. Oh, it's been decreased. The price has been decreased so well. Okay, so now since I'm nearing almost 1 hour, let me see if I uh, can have some time to show you. Okay, I'm going to open a new Visual Studios. Then I'm going to show you what I'm trying to say for the application configuration thing. Weekly. Hello.net. Yeah, I think this one hello.net console. We are not going to open the yeah, we have here sample WinForms. And let's open the CS Prods. You see that we have .NET 8 Windows. This is also a good sample because I'm also trying to show you how to target a specific version of Windows such as Windows 10. And we cannot have Windows 7 for .NET 8. But the most important thing that I'm going to show you next is the application configuration or the startup boot or bootstrap or whatever, because in the document it is called a bootstrap. but to me, it's just a way to to have a basic configuration. So if you look at this one, so the source code, it says here, the file was generated by system.windowsform.generators application configuration generator. So it is basically an implementation of source generator. You see that the initialize method is executing these 3 lines of code: enable visual styles, set compatible text rendering, and set high DPI mode. It is using high DPI mode system aware. This is coming from, I think, .NET 6, if I'm not mistaken. So it has awareness of DPI changing. Okay, I'm going to set this as start project. Run it. So I'm going to change the DPI for my screen. I'm going to, oh, the sample is just too simple. Okay, let me try to add one more control here. So the documentation mentioned about DPI unaware, but I don't know how to differentiate between normal controls or normal toolbar and the DPI aware. But let's see. Let's put button here. And normal button. Normal button. And then save it. It is using Segue UI 9 point. Okay, so let's run this. And I'm going to change the DPI. Let's see whether we can directly test the progress or advancement. Okay, so more display settings. Okay, where is that DPI? Oh, scale. Okay, it says here I'm going to scale it to 125%, 125%. Windows is responding nicely, but let's see. Oh, still nicely responding. And let's look at the Visual Studio Designer. Okay, it is somehow a little bit blurry. Um, So the look is different from, yeah, here is cleaner, and here is blurry. But unfortunately my time is up, and oops, I have a rendering problem here. Looks like. Let's just open this. Yeah, rendering problem. So yo, designer is okay. Yep. Hopefully this could give you some nice introduction of WinForms. And I think, okay, for the next, I'm going to show you more detailed sample of WinForms and also WPF. And hopefully we'll show you Trimmer. And hopefully next week should be the starting week to show Trimmer, because many things will be changed if you deploy your app using Trimmer. Again, and thanks for your interest to view and to enjoy my video. I think this can be seen as a nice segue to the upcoming .NET 9. And before that, as always, if you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe to my channel. And also, if you don't mind, don't forget to tell your friends or your colleague that we have a playlist of videos that is as is. It's very candid, and I only have a very very small time to prepare all of this. So you'll see that it is as is. I also have mistakes on assuming that Blazor thing. Okay, and then I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.